Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah,
I'm Laura.
and we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are investigating the Dublin Murder Squad, and
Dublin
we're
Murder Squad.
covering the characters, I guess, and themes of
hmm
The Secret Place, our least favorite book in the
Do we
entire
want to cover the
series.
characters?
I
What are the
don't
themes? Who knows?
Who knows? We have some discussion topics. But before we ask ourselves, what was this book? Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've been seeing people talk about this for a long time on social media, but I recently got my hands on Lore Olympus Volume 1 by Rachel Smythe. And this was originally a webtoon that was
Okay.
serialized into a graphic novel form. And I think there are 8 volumes out at the moment, but it's this really beautiful series that is featuring the relationship or the budding relationship as far as volume 1 of Persephone and Hades. And it's kind of told with this modern spin where there's a lot of liberties taken. If you're wanting like a beat for beat retelling of Hades and Persephone, this is not your story, but it's very much a modern spin on the Greek gods and what their relationships might look like if they were set into like a modern era. I think it is like really beautiful to look at, and I really like what the creator did with a lot of it. It looks very much like a watercolor painting when you're reading it,
Yeah.
and so it's gorgeous to look at. I also think that it is interesting just from the standpoint of like some of the deeper themes that it's handling in terms of like consent and mental illness and how to handle sexual assault. Trigger warnings. I'm sorry. It is a deep book, and some of the content may not be acceptable. I shouldn't say acceptable. May not be appropriate if you're not in the right headspace for it. But
Yeah.
I do appreciate what the author is doing with the series and how they're jumping into those type of things with something like a webtoon or a graphic novel. And I think that a lot of times graphic novels create a safer place to talk about those types of things. And so I really just think that it was a good move on the author's part to go for it. And I think that a lot of times those things are more palatable and easier to read about if you are, I shouldn't say more palatable, it's never palatable, but easier to learn about and have empathy and relate to the characters in a graphic
Yeah.
novel form. And yeah, I think it's pretty well done, and I'm excited to read the next volume. They're chunky volumes. I'm not sure how long each chapter was. I'm trying to remember, or how long like the webtoon is. I don't even know if I can look it up via webtoon if it's available for free online or anything like that. I'd have to look into it more, but really well done series. But like I said, if you're not in the right headspace to handle some of those themes like sexual assault and consent and deeper things with relationships, maybe take a beat before you pick it up. And
Yeah.
I do just appreciate what the author's doing with it, though, and it's just a really pretty series to look at. So I'll be continuing with it.
I've been wondering about that series 'cause, yeah, often, like usually if I'm in a Barnes and Noble, weirdly enough, like I always
Oh,
see
really?
it when
Okay.
I'm there. But I've always wondered and I've like thought about picking it up, but I feel like sometimes I buy graphic novels and then I never read them. So I feel like I always need the like
hmm
I checked it out at the library, so that's my motivation of it all. As I sit
Where
here
it's like they
looking
need it back.
as I sit here looking at my stack of monstrous volumes that I've been trying to reread, and I'm just like, I have time. And it's like, no, you don't. They have to go back eventually.
hmm
But
hmm
I've been thinking about those, so it's good to hear that you enjoyed them.
Yeah, I'm going to continue with the series, and keep you guys updated on how it goes. But I
Yeah.
would, like I said, I would recommend it if you're in the right headspace, and I do think it's really pretty. And the author is doing kind of a unique thing, making this more of a modern Greek gods
Yeah.
glimpse. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. And then I also watched Song Sung Blue.
Oh, yeah. I
You
mean,
are a Milwaukee native, so you should have seen this.
I didn't. I mean, I'm like early to Milwaukee. I've only been here
Sure,
3 years now, but yeah, I
sure.
do know Song Sung Blue. There was a line around cops when Mr. Uh, Greatest Showman himself, Hugh
Hugh
Jackman, was
Jackman.
here. Yeah, he came here to like push it, and I mean, I've heard good things. Like Kate
Hmm.
Hudson got a
She's nominated for an
Oscar
Oscar for
nomination.
this
Yes,
role.
yes.
I went into this thinking it was going to kind of be like a funnier movie. I don't know
Mm,
why I was thinking that, but my husband and I watched it together, and this was like the biggest shock for me, honestly. I'm not going to spoil anything about the movie, but it's about a cover band of Neil Diamond.
yes.
And
A very
so,
famous Neil Diamond cover band in
yes.
Milwaukee. So this is based on a true story.
Yeah, it's all based on true story. I had no idea about it really. So it was kind of, and I think it was also based on a documentary too.
Hmm.
So the film is based on a documentary, which is based on a true story. Obviously, documentary is based on a true story, but the movie is based on this Neil Diamond cover band that what was it even called? I'm trying to look it up here. Thunder and Lightning.
Mm.
And this couple that formed Thunder and Lightning and how they were both performers and follows their lives a little bit and how their relationship plays out and how the band gains some popularity and everything and honestly a lot of popularity, but it it really takes a turn at one point and it
Mm.
just shocks me in a way that I did not expect it to. But yeah, I think it was a movie that I was expecting to be corny and ended up really liking,
Oh,
honestly.
good.
You know, and like I said, did not expect to, but it was really good. And for sure, Kate Hudson was really excellent in it.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, my husband and I both enjoyed this movie, and obviously there's a lot of singing in it and everything. I was
Mhm.
unsure if Kate Hudson actually did the singing in this. I'm assuming that Hugh Jackman did it. It sounds like his usual vibrato,
Mm.
but I was
From
curious.
now on. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like his usual singing, and I do like joke a lot about Hugh Jackman singing, just because I think they joked about him on the Bechdel cast,
Yeah.
so now I just think it's funny a lot. But he is also a very good performer, and I'm
Right.
sure when they're looking for somebody for this type of role, where they're like, oh, we need someone to sing a lot, he does make a perfect fit for this. So yeah, and I was a little curious as to how he would sound compared to Neil Diamond, but I think he did that fairly well
Oh, good.
from what they show in the movie. But yeah, I did think that it was pretty good, and my husband and I liked it quite a bit. So, but it was a shocker to me. I wasn't expecting to like it that much.
Yeah.
And I think my husband was kind of the same, where he also was watching this and was like, okay, well, this movie turned out to be very different. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wouldn't say it was like the best movie ever watched, but definitely a really enjoyable one.
I mean,
And
it did not get nominated for Oscars when Kate
no,
Hudson did. They were like, she deserves it. Everyone else, it's fine. Like,
yeah, I don't know that I would call this like compared to like other movies that I have watched fairly recently within like the last year or so. I wouldn't say that it's like a masterpiece. I would
right.
say this is a very enjoyable movie. So yeah, it's not on the level of like give it all the awards. No, it's
It's
just on the
fine.
level of it's a good movie to watch if you're like having a movie night or you are just curious about Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson's fake relationship in Milwaukee that you didn't know about.
And his real relationship with Sutton Foster, which I'm way more interested in.
Are
So,
you?
yeah, I'm a huge Sutton Foster head because she was in
Are you?
Buttheads, which
Oh.
was an Amy Sherman Palladino joint. And I watched a ton of Younger, and I'm very interested in her as like a stage presence and also like her and Christian Borle's marriage fascinates me on a level of just like morbid curiosity because
Mm-hmm.
he cheated on her with Laura Bell Bundy while he was doing Legally
Oh.
Blonde the musical with her. Um,
Oh.
but he and Sutton Foster like seem to be on reasonably well, like good terms. Like they are on
Mm.
TV shows together. They were in Gilmore
Mm-hmm.
Girls, A Year in the Life together. So it's just
Hmm.
like one of those where like it's just fascinating to me to see people who are like, yeah, like we went through this stuff, but we came out on the other end and we're fine. And it's also just like that weird musical theater vibe of like two very big diva stars and like there's been rumors that Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster started dating while they were with respective partners and all this stuff.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna
it's like
say it
a
makes
little bit
me a
of
little bit
drama.
sad because
Yeah.
Hugh for the longest time was with his wife Deb,
Yes.
and he very much seemed to be very in love with her. She was
Yes.
quite a bit older than him, and they got together
Yes.
when he was fairly young. But it seemed from an outside fan standpoint like they were in a really good relationship and they loved each other a lot. Because he would often put up posts on social media, just like a picture of her and how much he loved her and everything. So it was
Yes.
a little bit shocking to me that all occurred and he ended up with Sutton Foster, honestly. So when you said that you're a big fan, I was like, interesting, because
I'm a big fan of being curious about them. I wouldn't say I'm like
okay,
voting for their success, but like it is fascinating. Like,
okay.
I don't know. I'm always a little bit weirded out by um
I don't have a lot of knowledge of what happened or anything. I can't speculate. I don't know.
I mean,
And I'm
obviously
not
people speculate,
no one's
but
in their
like
relationship to actually know. I just like
I always
feel
think
a
it's
little bit
fascinating when
sad for Deb because it seems like she stepped down from her career and everything to allow him to have a big career, if that makes sense. I
yeah,
because she was also a very popular soap star and
right.
everything. And it seemed like she kind of stepped back from the spotlight to help Hugh succeed. And he seemed to be very much like a loving dad and husband. And so I don't know. Again, I don't know. I can't speculate on anything. Who knows? They may have had a terrible relationship that none of us knew about.
No, I don't
Also,
think so,
people
but
grow apart too. So
I'm
I don't
also
know.
just fascinated by like I don't know. And this is probably just my morbid like this is why I'm like it's morbid curiosity at some point because like it's so weird when you have someone who has like a very stable relationship and then all of a sudden it gets blown up in this very big way because like it is a little bit big and it's a little bit of like unspoken that this is happening, but like I'm fascinated by what happened because we'll never know, especially with this
Yeah.
type of
We're
story.
never
Like,
going to know
yeah,
unless one of them like comes out and starts to dish, and then the other party comes out and starts to dish at all. That if they
right.
start being petty, which I don't foresee happening.
No, I don't
They
foresee
seem
that
too
happening.
mature to start being petty and dish it
And
all
that's
to
and that's
paparazzi and tabloids.
America's style. But it also just weirds me out because I think it shocks me. It's one of those like no, I like Sutton Foster a lot, but it is weird because like they are in two different stratospheres in my mind where I'm like, oh yeah, I was always a cursory fan of Sutton Foster and I always knew she was messy. Like those are
Hmm.
two things can be true at once. But then like when people said like, oh, they linked her with Hugh Jackman, I remember being like, that's not real.
Well, they were in the
Like
Music Man together, is what it
yeah,
was,
but it
and
still
so
doesn't feel real. Like it's just like, well, that's just something
sure.
people say, and I just didn't think
I feel
it
like a lot of
was
times that
real.
kind of thing happens though, where two people are in a role, like in romantic roles together, and then they end up in a
Yeah,
relationship.
it's so
And
weird
a
to
lot of
me.
times it's ill-fated, but
Yes.
it does happen sometimes. I mean, there was the Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which became Brangelina that we
Yeah.
talked about
But
for
even
the
them, I'm
longest
like, well,
time.
that's two superstars. Like this one just weirded me out because I was like, Sutton
I mean,
Foster's
Sutton
in
Foster is a
younger.
superstar in her own right, though, in terms of the Broadway community. I
That's
think
fair, but
I
it just
think
it
that
doesn't
like
it
Hugh
doesn't
Jackman
work in
is
my mind.
a worldwide acting name. I think that Sutton Foster, if you were to like talk to a Broadway head, would be like, "Oh yeah, Sutton
Well,
Foster." And
I mean,
so
I
for
am
Hugh
a
Jackman to like make the jump to Broadway and everything, I feel like it kind of makes sense to me.
It doesn't to me. It literally, and I'm a fan of hers. Like, this isn't me
Hmm.
putting down Broadway communities. Broadway communities are excellent. It's just those two did not match in my mind. So it was shocking
Sure.
to me. So I'm very morbidly curious by it.
Is I can't remember how old she is. Is she quite a bit younger than Hugh Jackman?
No, I don't think so. I mean, she's in her,
Okay.
I mean, I know he's like in his 60s now.
I I know I think he's still in his 50s.
Okay, she's in her 50s. She's 50. So, um,
Let me check how old he is. I
he
wanted to say he was still in
is
his 50s. He's 57.
okay. Yeah, they're relatively within the same, and I mean, they're listed as partners on Wikipedia,
Are
which
they?
is yeah, but they've
So
been
yeah,
together since
they're both in their
2025. Like,
50s.
yeah.
So okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is one of those interesting relationships that developed from being romantic
Oh yeah,
leads
totally.
in
It's
something.
just
So,
one where there are two people who are very independent in my mind. So when they got together, I was like,
hmm,
that's what I didn't. It's like
sure,
your favorite cake is suddenly being sold as a cookie. You know, you're like,
sure,
oh okay,
sure.
weird. Um, but I wouldn't say I'm like a fan of their relationship. I don't
Got it, got
want
it.
people to be, stepping out on their partners.
Justice for Deb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do kind of feel for Deb because again, I don't know the situation or anything, but it does make me a little sad when we're seeing couples that we've kind of like celebrity couples that we've kind of hoped were really stable.
I didn't realize they had children until you mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, well, that's
hmm
sad.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is, so Deb dealt with a lot of infertility issues,
Mm.
and I think they ended up adopting at one point, but they went
Oh,
through
okay.
IVF and had a lot of trouble uh, conceiving, so they ended up adopting. So they have
Okay.
two children that they
Got it.
adopted. But yeah, seemingly were in love. But
Yeah.
you know what? Music Man, apparently the most romantic musical ever.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Gary, Indiana, Gary.
I guess maybe
Um,
Marian the Librarian is the most seductive of all songs. Who
glad you
would
said
have
it so I didn't
thought?
have to.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you though, Hannah. I used to watch the Music Man
Oh,
VHS
same.
of Matthew Broderick
Oh, yep.
as the
Yep,
Music
same.
Man
Hmm.
all the time, and I loved Matthew Broderick. Like I thought he was so cute, and that was my introduction to him, honestly, like who he was. And then I got into, oh, this is also Ferris Bueller. What?
Ferris
There was this
Bueller and
movie
his day
called
off where he
Ferris
was
Bueller's Day Off. What?
one of my favorite how did this get made moments is when they're talking about the movie he did, the Christmas movie with Danny DeVito,
Uh-huh.
and they said they talked to a production person on the set, and Matthew Broderick kept walking around going, I mean, this is the end. This is it. Like it was like very much like this is the end of my acting career. This is a bad movie. Like
I
so.
liked him in the Stepford Wives too. I actually have a weird fondness for
Oh,
that movie
yeah,
too. Like
me
Nicole Kidman
too.
is in it, and I kind of really like that movie.
I wrote a I wrote a law school paper that I used Stepford Wives as a not the actual movie because the movie is fantastic and no notes,
Mhm.
but I was doing a persuasive writing exercise in law school, and I was trying to say that like um Supreme Court justices are affected by the world around them, and I used it
hmm
through literature because it was a literature in the law class,
hmm
and Stepford Wives came out the year before Roe v. Wade was decided. So I pulled a lot of the
Oh,
like
interesting.
discussions of Stepford Wives from that into the
hmm
decision of Roe v. Wade. So random things, but I
Interesting
also
class.
yeah, it was a fun class. I we read a lot of good books, but yeah, I remember have a weird fascination with Nicole Kidman's Stepford Wives, and I think that's why I like saw that and I was like, oh, and I like literally sat at the library reading the entire book even though I didn't have to. Weird book, weird book.
I need to read that. I haven't read
Yeah,
it.
it's a good one. Like it's very there are some very bizarre scenes that you're like, wow, this was happening, way
hmm
before we were reading books. We talk about like how much we don't like thrillers, but like I remember there's a very specific scene where the Nicole Kidman character wakes up in the book and her husband is like pleasuring himself in the bed next to her. It's just like a moment where she was like,
hmm
why wouldn't you just wake me up? Why did you like come to bed? Do this like this is weird and yeah,
hmm
it's a very bizarre book, so and it has that like thriller energy but like really well written, so
hmm But Hannah, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
for watching I started School Spirits on Paramount Plus.
Oh
It's
yeah,
on
you
this
watched that previously, right?
Yeah, it's on its third season. It's bad now. Like
Oh no.
I I don't know, and not to like disrespect movies or disrespect people who enjoy movies, and I'm probably coming in hot here, but this book or this TV show is obviously meant for younger people than me, a 35-year-old woman, because it's based in high school. These are high school children, you know.
hmm hmm
Um, I I don't know. It's kind of getting a Riverdale edit, I feel like, where they just didn't have any more storylines in the world that it was already in, which was a very effective world. So they just kept throwing stuff at the wall and being like, is this something? And I'm like, it's not. It's not anymore. It's really weird.
Mm.
Like, this is supposed to be a pretty
So they just
small.
didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know what to do with it. And it's like a very effective story of like, oh, this girl is a ghost in a school. You have to figure out what happened to her. And then in the second season, some stuff is revealed in the first season that's so effective and like makes the world bigger. But then they did kind of resolve it at the end of season two. And I remember when I was watching it thinking like, oh, is it going to get picked up for another season? And it did. But I'm not sure they had much story left to tell. So now they're kind of switching things up and it's not good. It's very confusing, and I mean, I'm still going to continue to watch it because this is one of the few shows that I enjoy watching, like where I can
Hmm.
sit and just watch it and just. But it's definitely one that I just let wash over me, and uh, yeah, it's gotten weird. It's off the rails. I want someone to like watch it and talk to me about it, not for TV Tuesday because I feel like this is a wild ride in the third season. But it definitely feels the like edit of, wow, we really ran out of stuff that we wanted to tell, so we want to make the world bigger, and it just doesn't work that way. Like literally in this season, this is supposed to be a pretty small town school. Like, and they bring in a villain that no one else knew about but one popular girl. And I'm like, that's not realistic. That's you would know who that girl is. Like,
That's too bad, honestly, because it sounds like because you previously have talked about this and really enjoyed it. So
yeah.
it sounds like it ha was a show that had a lot of potential that they just maybe were unsure what direction to go,
Yeah.
and then they're just grasping at straws
They
and
are.
didn't luck out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like they had a lot of good ideas that were very effective, but then again, it's again like once you sit with them for a while, you're like, this is weird. I feel uncomfortable with what's
Sure.
going on and I don't know what to do about it. So I'm 3 episodes in. I'm gonna continue watching through all eight, but like it's wild. There are some very funny scenes, like, and this is why I enjoyed the show because it was like deep, dark, mysterious, but it was also very funny. So like the kids had to learn dances, they're kids from different
Hmm.
eras and things like
Hmm.
that. And so at one point they're trying to talk to, you find out like this school is overridden with ghosts,
Okay.
which is fine because it like helps expand the world. But like at one point they're trying to go talk to all the different ghosts and like they'll be like, oh, that one woman who died in the costume room. She always has her nail gun. It's really dangerous to go talk to her. And it's like very funny to think about these ghosts like trying to interact because like some people are like
Hmm.
so dazed from their like being dead they can't
Uh-huh.
accept the world so they just fight it like that is funny to hear about, but it was also one of those things where you obviously know that they don't have a ton of money because
Sure.
like they won't go show him talking to her, he
They
just comes
can't cut
back
away
later,
to
yeah,
it. They
like
just mention it,
they
and it's
just
like,
mention it,
okay,
and it's just like, and that's like there was a scene once between two people that it kept doing close-ups and my sister-in-law was like, there's a lot of close-ups, and I was like, yeah, they literally didn't have enough money to do like wide shots for a night shoot. Like, and so this
mm-mm.
poor production is like making it happen on $2 and goodwill. And yeah, I'm just losing some of the luster and like just some weird stuff. I don't know. There was just some very bizarre things. And like, yeah, I feel like it's overstayed its welcome at this point. I'll continue to watch it because I did enjoy it. And I'm hoping it picks back up. But 3 episodes in, I'm kind of like, what am I watching? This
Is
is
this something
weird.
that was like broadcast on TV or is it only streaming?
I think it was only streaming because it's also like rated M for mature, I think.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm a
um,
little unaware of like the Paramount Plus catalog and what's on there because I don't have that.
yeah. I don't know. My dad has Paramount Plus, and so I'll like sometimes get it to watch this and do all those things, but
Hmm.
um it is like a Paramount Plus only series. So, and it's
Okay.
adapted from a graphic novel, but like also the graphic novel like came out after the series ran, so it feels like they like got a run
Okay.
of it and like so I think they ran out of random um I think they ran out of
This does
materials.
sound like
So,
something though that would be better as a graphic novel or comic, honestly. Like it's easier
yeah,
to play with things in panel form and to make jokes like that in panel form rather than
yes.
TV.
But Jennifer Tilly is on this season, which
Who
tickled
is on
me.
it?
So Jennifer Tilly is
Oh,
on this
okay.
season. So, and I always like a Jennifer Tilly moment. So, Yeah, I don't know.
Iconic voice, iconic voice.
Iconic voice. And it has the kid from the zombie Disney Channel movies.
Oh, your
Uh,
favorite. You
he
very much enjoy those.
oh, obviously, I've definitely seen them all, totally.
Well,
He
you
also
mentioned the
just
soundtracks being good to them, I remember.
uh did I don't remember the zombie soundtracks. I don't think I've listened to those.
Oh, I thought you had told me that the soundtracks to those were
I
good.
think you're
Or
thinking about the Descendants
oh
soundtracks because
yes, I
those
am. I
are
am thinking of those.
bops, but they're also directed by Jenny Ortega or uh Lenny Ortega, who did
Okay.
Newsies. So like they're gonna be bops because he is a very skillful
Is it
director. And
Kenny or
Kenny Ortega, thank you. My mind is gone. Um, and this man just got cast in the live action Tangled movie.
oh,
uh
who is also is in the Tangled movie? Because I know Catherine Hahn is playing Mother Gothel and everybody's all
oh,
up and all
I
like excited about it. But
I like that. Let's see. I don't know who the live action Tangled ones are. His mom is like he's a nepotism baby, but a fun
okay.
nepotism baby. Because she was like on the TV show The Practice. She always plays like really intense lawyers. I really like her. So yeah, Tangled, it has, you're right, Catherine Hahn, and then
Hmm.
I'm trying to find out who the I have no idea who this actress is, who is playing Rapunzel. Her name is Tegan Croft. That
Nope, not
has,
a clue.
she's an Australian actress, but she is blonde, so the racists
Okay.
can calm down.
Whew.
Um,
Whew. Good thing. Whew. I
uh,
was getting worried. I'm like,
I
wow,
know.
they
She,
might cast a person of color, and then
oh,
I will be mad. You
no.
know. Woohoo.
She has not been in a ton of stuff.
Okay.
She was in a TV show called Titans, DC comic one. So, um, but yeah, I like he's very cute when he talks about his mom. So I like the guy as a personal person. He seems personable, and he's probably one of the more talented actors on there, as well as the main actress. But some people
Okay.
get rough as time goes on. So, but then for reading, I read The Ministry of Time by Colleen Bradley. This is like, I would say a lit fic fantasy, slash like romance where a woman gets brought into this ministry of time where
Hmm.
they've discovered time travel, and she is a person who will work as a quote unquote bridge who is living and assisting a person who came from the past. So she gets linked with this Commander Graham Gore who disappeared when he was on an expedition to the Arctic. And it's very much about like him coming to terms with living in the modern era, coming to terms with like the people he lost in the past,
Hmm.
and like his connections with other people who have been brought out of time. And
Hmm.
there's lots of espionage and stuff going on. I really loved the first two-thirds of this novel. Like I was
Okay.
really here for it. I did the audiobook version. It's really well done. The last third, weirdly, it's the same complaint I have about School Spirits. I feel like it overstayed its welcome, where I was like, I really
Okay.
loved when this was a discussion of the characters. And then in the final third, it got into like more espionage and more
Mm.
like what's going on with the timelines. And I couldn't care less. Like, I
Sure.
was like, this is not the book I signed up for. I signed up for a commander being a little bit like, I can live with a woman and it's not terrible,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
and I things I did like about the final third, like there were some comeuppance that I thought were very much needed, and it was still interesting to kind of have it all mean something. But it was a book that, like,
Okay.
I mean, this is like a bestseller. It's like a
I recognize the
yeah,
cover. Yeah, it's very familiar to me.
many people read this and they love it. And like I really really liked the first part, but I just didn't
Hmm.
understand why we took the turns we did in the end, other than like time travel books. So there has to be more time travel. And I'm trying not to ruin too much of this because it's a lot of like, "Ooh, you didn't see this coming." And I'm like,
Hmm.
I didn't see it coming, but I don't think I needed to, I don't think I wanted to see this coming.
Sure.
Like, but I did like a lot of this. I thought like it was a very interesting look at like sexuality from the past, and like, it was written
Hmm.
very beautifully, you know, but just overall disappointed in the end. I don't, it's one where I was like, I really liked this. Would I recommend others read it? And I think my answer is probably not, but other people do recommend it. So figure out who you want to listen to.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of mixed reviews on Goodreads. I think it's like kind of difficult anymore to recommend books because everybody just has their own tastes in things, and
Yeah.
things that I like and think are awesome, some other people may not. I was recently talking with a coworker and they were saying that they do not enjoy literary fiction because they find it extremely depressing. And I was like, I love a depressing book. Like so
Yeah.
many of the books that I'm like absolute favorite, would recommend it to anyone, are kind of depressing. So
Yeah.
and not just kind of, they're one deeply depressing. So yeah, I think it's just kind of people have different tastes. So I think you're trying to defend like not being super enthralled to this book. I think you don't have to. It's okay. People can make their own judgment.
It's yeah, it's not even that. It was like it was a book where I literally sat there thinking like, would I recommend this? Because I really enjoyed the first part, but
Hmm.
not the last part. And I was like,
Yeah.
I think it's a no, which I also think is interesting to have a book like that because I think I'm very into not recommending books, saying like, oh, you should read this. I'm a big like, I enjoyed this because this. So if you want
Hmm.
something like that, this is a great book for that. But this one, I was like, I literally think if people were like, oh, when should I read this? And I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend you read this or when to read it. It's very
Hmm.
interesting. It's very different. So like, yeah, it's just a weird one where I don't know how to discuss it as either a recommendation or a discussion of what taste this is for. I was confused by it.
So what you're saying is go read Of Monsters and Mainframes if you want a fun
Yes,
sci-fi book.
that has almost an identical cover, but slightly
They
different.
are very
Like,
similar covers, which is why I
yes.
brought it up. It reminded me of
I
that
think
one.
someone asked
Except
me,
Of
like,
Monsters and Mainframes is cuter.
it's so cute. No, this one is much more like sexy in
Hmm.
specific ways, but
Like you're a
um
Goodreads winner.
but yeah, it was good. It was fine. Yeah, I rated it 3 stars. It's not like I hated it.
Hmm.
It's getting the
Yeah.
like Hannah doesn't want to recommend a book, so she hates it treatment. But yeah, so
It's much easier
there's
to, I feel like it's always much easier to give a critique or review of a book that you either loved or
hmm
you hated. These books that
yes.
fall in the middle, I feel like you and I both do this where we're very much like hedging, like, but like if you don't like this, like I'm not trying to recommend it. I enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks. People like,
Yep. I know I just read this back in November, guys, but I wanted to read Nona the Ninth. And I
oh yeah.
honestly read Harrow the Ninth in physical format. And I thought, I don't remember anything about what
Hmm.
happens in this book. And so I'm re-listening to the audio, or I'm listening to the audio.
Hmm.
And I mentioned this when I read it the first time, where I'm like, I think these are books I have to reread and then I can go to the next one because I don't quite understand what's going on.
Sure.
And that is true. And my second read, I'm like, I understand everything. This makes so much sense. And I'm like, I was so lost when I read this back in
Hmm.
October. So I was right. I gave myself indication. I'm 40% through, and I'm like, this is a great time. I know what's about to happen. I know what's happening, and I'm not confused. So
That's always a good thing to not be confused.
but sometimes this book makes me feel stupid where I'm like, why do I have to reread this? I'm a smart person. Why is Tamsin Muir speaking like a different language the first time I read these? So,
Honestly, I reread Monsters every year for the same reason because I'm like,
yeah,
the new one's going to come out and I'm going to forget everything because it's so complex.
they're so complex. And these books are very complex because it's just very detailed and necromancy and all these different things get thrown out. And yeah, but it's so beautifully crafted. And I do love
Hmm.
these books. So definitely go pick them up and talk to me about it if you feel stupid when you read them because I do.
I know a lot of people are big fans of that series. So yeah, if you read it, reach out on maybe Discord.
Oh, Discord. We had someone join our Discord recently. It was amazing.
Yay.
But with that said, should we dive in
I
to
suppose.
the
Did
secret
you have a favorite
place?
character?
I had to pick this out for because I have a little book journal and I had to pick a favorite character, and I think I
Oh
put
my.
Julia question mark. Or Conway. Like
Yeah,
I
I
like
think
Conway.
Conway.
Yeah, I think Conway's it. She's the simplest character. I You and I kind of talked about this off mic because I think this book was the hardest and most challenging for us. So buckle
Mhm.
up, listeners. But like I read Holly and Julia as the two teenage characters that Tana French liked the most.
Mhm.
And they had the most tragic edits for 16-year-old girls, like especially with
Yeah.
the ending of like Holly's the one who turned them in. She didn't realize she was turning her friend in. She didn't want to be a rat. And she ended up being that person because of who she is. She's someone who
Hmm.
wants to
Hmm.
help others. She wants to make sure that people feel heard or seen. And that's what she was trying to do with her friends and even with her uncle 2 books ago. And it always seems to blow up in her face.
Hmm.
And so I do think like French likes that character because she loves Frank Mackey. And I think because of that, like Holly is
A
an
character
extension
who
of her.
loses it all because they are working for justice. Yeah.
Yes. So I think she loves Holly as an extension of that. And that makes her tragic in her own way in a very
Hmm.
like, and because she loves Frank Mackey, I also think Holly gets a little bit of like a Virgin Mary at it.
A little
Like
bit, yeah.
she's
A
not
more
interested in
positive.
sex. She's not making out with boys. She
Mhm.
doesn't really drink.
She's
She,
the most competent. That even
yes.
when like Moran is talking about her, he's like, she's too smart for all of this. And
Yeah, very much so. So I
mhm,
do think she gets a little bit of like the Virgin Mary edit from Tana
sure.
French because of this, where like Julia is tragic in a way that like is a little ridiculous because she's someone who is brash and in your face, but she's also someone who very much feels a certain way. And I always saw her as like someone who kind of wanted to be part of society in a way that's very
Hmm.
acceptable, but like her personality kept her from doing that. And because
Hmm.
of that, she makes very, very poor decisions. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awful, honestly.
yeah. And so uh, it's hard. It's hard to like any of these teenage girls, but those are the two that I felt like French had the most sympathy for.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know that she was even that kind to them in the read that I got of it
Yeah.
because it seemed like to me all of the teenagers were written in such a way that I did not like any of them. I was very frustrated by the chapters with the teenagers, and it felt a little bit like, as I was reading it, that maybe French really hates teenagers. I don't know, but they were all pretty insufferable and made a lot of choices that were frustrating, and they were bad decisions, and there was a lot of meanness that was occurring and everything, and it was hard to read a lot of times
Yeah.
these chapters. I again stand by that my statement that it is a testament to her writing that she's that like able to get those kind of emotions out of readers, that she
Yeah.
can like write something that is very moving, but then in the next book write two like opposing timelines and make you really hate one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and maybe I shouldn't say maybe, there probably are a lot of teens that are absolutely insufferable and dramatic and terrible to be around like this, but it seemed at times to me too much and a little hard to read
Yeah.
because of the way that they were written. So even though like I do agree with your take that Holly of course had a kinder right than the other characters, I don't know that necessarily she was always written in the kindest way either, because a lot of times she came off as a little bit mean too. So I don't know, but it is very much a tragic look at like what happens when you quote unquote do the right thing
Yeah.
and how you can lose people that are close to you by doing the right thing. So,
Yeah. And we we'd also like taken had some this book had was rife for discussions for us off the mic
mhm,
just because I feel like we were so torn on it because like I do think there is a discussion here of like what's intentional about like writing high school girls because I also have read a couple of books that were very specifically about boarding school and about this type of
Hmm.
person specifically. And it feels like when people do write books about boarding school, they tend to be kind of more this edit of like terrible mean girls and people
Yeah.
who are stuck in one world
Mhm.
and like they can't look away from stuff, you know. So I do think that that is like the type of books Tana French is writing. But you and I
And
also
it almost
talked.
seems a little bit like it's a personal thing too. Like there's maybe some personal feelings coming out in the way that this is written.
Yes. And we also talk about like it's hard to differentiate because there's so many moving parts of this of like what's personal, what's just like kind of discussing the personal, what's the boarding school novel of it all, and kind of like and a product of its time because we talked about how this came out in 2014, which feels more recent, but also was pre-Me Too, kind of during a weird era where women were seen as like fodder for jokes.
Yeah.
Um, and like Tana French, a lot of this book could be the boarding school of it all, but also like she is horribly fat phobic in this book that isn't always from the perspective of someone we know we're supposed to be
And she
disagreeing
has
with.
been previously
Yes.
too. So you and I talked about this too, that there's maybe some, uh, we can acknowledge that an author does a lot of things right, but
Hmm.
also might be taking a lot of missteps and having has a lot of internalized issues with things that might come
Yes.
out in their writing without them even knowing it, such as the
Yes.
fat phobia. A lot of classism too, honestly, comes off
Yes.
on the page. And
And a little bit of disgust for women sometimes. Like,
yes, where it's interesting from someone who appears to be an attractive, thin white woman,
hmm
who we don't know, but very popular author.
yes.
Uh, Likely some privilege there, but to read about some of the characters who are from a lower class or are a different size or shape being written the way that they are, it doesn't leave a good taste in your mouth, really.
No. And again, like she could come out tomorrow and say like, well, those are characters in my book. They're supposed to
Yep.
have complicated thoughts. Of course, authors are supposed to note that, but
Yep.
usually if you're delving into topics that we haven't fully like progressed forward from, like usually there's something
Hmm.
in the novel that tells you that it's not the right way to think about like fat people or people in lower
Correct,
socioeconomic
Hannah. Correct.
places, and it's definitely not there.
Yeah,
And
there's no characters that are calling these things out. A lot of authors will do that where you'll have just like characters that are mentioned in these ways that are a lot of the isms like sexist takes or classist or ableist or fatphobic takes, and you'll have other characters call these things out. We don't
yeah,
see any of that really
it's
in
kind of told more from a
this.
joking perspective. And this is again like us, we're assessing a book deeply. But
Hmm.
like we talked about this in the first episode of like propaganda. Like these
Hmm.
are technically propaganda. The cops always find
Yep.
who did it. I think some of the ones we've loved more deal with more complex thoughts of like who should be
Hmm.
guilty, and it's police officers having that internal fight. And it's like that's actually
Hmm.
interesting because like these things can have complicated discussions.
Yep.
But like, and also like Tana French is a woman who was born in the 70s and she grew up in
Hmm.
the 80s. So she has been consuming media along with the rest of us. So there might have been
Hmm.
something that came through in 2014 that has all of this stuff that said it was okay. But
Hmm.
it wasn't okay. You know, I just brought up Amy Sherman Palladino, another woman who has complex thoughts and is not a perfect narrator by any means necessary.
Hmm.
And I think like also holds men accountable because we can't
Yeah.
just say like women because you're women, you should definitely know all of this stuff. Like lots of men do
Hmm.
the same things. We just happen to be talking about a book by a woman who is doing it as well.
I
So,
think you and I are just trying to look at this from all POVs here
yes.
and acknowledge that. And we have previously, like in the last book, there were a lot of issues with fat phobia and classism for sure. And you and I kind of took the take of, well, we still like Scorcher, even though he had all these
Hmm.
thoughts. I very much loved that last book, but I think we just see a lot of these things amplified in the way that the women are
Yes.
written in this book and the teens are written in this book. So we felt uncomfortable to not mention these things. And we want
Yes.
to give people the full benefit of the doubt that, you know what, we sincerely hope that this is just something that Tana French is trying to bring out in the characters. And we do love her other books. We just want to mention it because we feel that
Because
it's
this is
important
also
to think
a book
about.
about high school girls who are
Yeah.
awful. Like,
Mhm.
and it is interesting. And this also feels like I don't the
It's important. I think what you and I both are like kind of getting at, though, that it's important when you're reading a book like this that's wanting you to think about these types of themes, that you actually think about them.
yes.
And so I think that's what we're kind of doing is not just being like, oh, well, the bad teenagers, they got in trouble. They should have because they're bad. It's not, that's not what books are
C-
about. We're supposed to be
correct.
critically thinking about these things. So that's what you and I are doing. And
Yes.
uh, we still love French's work, but we want to also note that there are things that could have been done better and make us a little
Yes.
uncomfortable at times.
And this book is also harder because like in the last books you get like 400 pages with the same character who's usually going through some
Hmm.
type of crisis themselves. That's what we've gotten. Our least favorite one before this, I feel like, was the likeness,
Yep. Hmm.
where it was like, oh, this character, and that was also a character featuring a woman. So I'll be very interested to see how we feel about Conway in the next book. But like
Hmm.
the rest of these books have been told from the perspective of very complex men
Male
who
detectives.
have
Hmm.
something going on that's traumatic in their life, and they're trying to figure out how to do their job on top of it. And
Although Moran didn't have tons of stuff happening
that's
behind the
the
scenes,
thing.
he's the most bland of
He is the most
the
bland.
male detectives that we've had because we have tons of trauma from all of the other ones that we've
And
dealt
again,
with.
he only gets half the time of the page. So like that
Yeah, and that's the
also,
thing where I think I was picking up on what you were saying that
yeah.
we when we had previously like 400 pages with a character, this time we only get like 200 because it's like, well,
Yes.
we don't have enough time, and all we know about Moran is that he really wants a promotion.
And he's really not a guy's guy. Like, and that's like, okay, good for you, but like that's not interesting to read.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's, I mean, I feel like good at not focusing on the male detective as much when the other half of the story is teenage girls, because like a lot of his
Yeah.
work is like, I am not interested in these women. I'm not interested in these teenage 17-year-old girls. They're icky. And I'm like, thank you,
Hmm.
Moran, for clearing that very low bar. But like
Yeah.
we don't get much time with him because he is kind of just facilitating the resolution of the murder.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I feel like in the previous books we've always like the last book you and I talked a lot about like the psychology of it, and you talked about the carbon monoxide potential poisoning and
Hmm. There was
all
more
these.
mystery involved too, where I think
Yes.
that that also was something in this book that French kind of gave herself away
Hmm.
so easily because by this point in the series, we've picked up, or at least I have picked up, that she drops hints
Yeah.
well within the first part of the book of like, oh, there's going to be some sort of mirroring that's occurring here, or there's going to be some sort of character that's tied to a similar character in the life of the troubled detective
Hmm.
that's obviously going to be the person. This time it was not as cleverly done. It was very much just it
Do
could
you want to
never
see
be
the
the
mind
innocent
of a
person.
killer? Like,
It
do you
could
want to
never
see?
be someone who's always innocent. And
Well,
shocker, it is someone who's always described as innocent.
Well, and also she's the other primary narration, so it's only logical that she would be the
Yeah.
murderer based on what she's saying, which is her running around saying she's going to puke all over the place if people make
Hmm.
her comport with the rest of the world. She seems very innocent and she's very naive in certain ways, but she's also smart. And like there are things that I was reading on Reddit where someone was like, "Oh gosh, you know what I never realized, but I realized on this reread, she's talking about setting fire to things, and arson is a precursor to murder." And I was like, everything about her was a precursor to murder.
Yeah. There was more than just that red flag. Like her extreme attachment to her friend group, that was a red flag. Where
Mhm.
like anybody calls out anything about her friend group, and she's like, "I will go to the front lines to fight the people who said this." It's like, okay, overreaction, calm down. And yeah, just like some very off things about this character that you could pick up on easily. Hence
And
the if
like,
it's not Becca, I will eat a shoe.
well, and like, so weird because it almost felt like she wanted to do a rehash of like a different type of like mental health issue that we've seen her do very effectively in the other books. But then don't have Holly believe she's a witch as well. Have it just be this is Becca's memory. She's not a reliable narrator, but that's not what we get. It's weird.
My thing is, I almost took it as French was wanting to create a situation where it was more of that stereotypical, like the person who seemingly has it all and has it all together, like
Mm,
even though you learn like more about their traumatic past as you go along, they seemingly are the one that's got it together and they never do this. That is the person who ends up doing it, because that is a trope of sorts, but it didn't work in this way, and it
yeah.
kind of I don't know. I
No,
I kind of thought that maybe that's what she was going for was like Becca was one who finally had it all and couldn't let it go, but it didn't play out that way. It played out as like you and I were saying, like there were obvious red flags about this
yeah.
woman.
Well, so I never read it quite that way. I think you and I read a
I
very
didn't
different.
read it that way. I'm saying I wonder if French wanted
Oh,
it to be
yeah.
read that way, and it
Yeah.
was the way that you and I read it, where it's like, no, there was a lot of red flags about this girl.
Yeah, I don't know what her intention was because usually I don't think she's someone who minds people knowing who the murderer is. So like I do
Hmm.
wonder if she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally fine. People knew it was Becca. That's the whole point." But at the same time, then I'm like, "Okay, but then you are going for unreliable narrator, a little like mentally too attached to her friends, and then like the magic portion didn't work for me because it never works for me, but like
It no.
she went too far into it. Like she needed to
Hmm.
be 3 steps removed that way, and
She always has
then it would have
somewhat
been
of a like feeling of like, oh, there's going to be some kind of magic involved, and that's like a red herring that we
yeah,
never should fall for. But yeah, I think that that was overdone in this book too to try and get us off the Becca scent, and I don't know, it
yeah,
didn't work
it
well
didn't
for me.
work. No, I agree. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to talk about the character because like Chris is such a nothing of a character. I
Chris is off. Like, honestly, the characters are very awful. I think, honestly, some of the parts that I found most interesting, like, I hated all of the, like, multiple phones with Chris and
oh
all the things that he
God.
was doing and how Selena was so enthralled with him and just was like, I can't believe how complex my boyfriend is. And it's like, girl, you need to grow up.
I
But,
mean, she's
and
16
then
and you get to date an awful
I
boyfriend,
know.
but like
But
so
yeah,
bad.
it was
And
written in such an annoying way. And then what happens with Julia is bad, and a lot of trauma is happening on the page, and we see these children who are unable to handle what's going on to them and are just like in practically like it's almost like they have disassociated with everything that's happened.
yes.
It's awful. So yeah, it's just a hard read all around in terms of these teenagers, and I did not enjoy it. Some of the more interesting parts, honestly, were the detectives Moran and Conway and their dynamic, and I
Yes.
did find it interesting when Frank got involved again too, because I like Frank, and
Everyone does. He's the favorite character. Like,
yeah, that was an interesting dynamic too when he got involved and everything. I don't know. I'm nervous about the next book though.
I cannot remember. I remember it was long, but like it
Hmm.
was the second one I read and I continued to read after it. So I feel like
Okay,
that's a
that's a
good
good
one.
omen.
Um, but yeah, I this book was rough. I feel like there were so many different things. Again, the like it's so weird because this is such a trope in books, and it kind of goes back to like the discussion of harmful narratives of like popular boy who sees beautiful, beautiful woman who's nice to others, and he's like, "You're not like the other girls," and it's like,
Hmm.
you don't want to date not like the other girls. You want to date the pretty, pretty woman who is a little nice. Like
Hmm.
that's actually what you want to date. So don't pretend differently. Yeah, Becca's a rough hang. There's not
Hmm.
really much to say about
I mean,
Selena. Like,
all of the Daleks, like they are
oh God,
awful people. They're
they're so
awful.
bad.
I and mean to their own friends, just
Yeah,
awful. And yeah, it kind of makes me wish a little. I know that there's a lot of books that depict like YA books that depict female friendships positively, but I kind of wonder if we maybe need more positive female relationships depicted outside of romance, if that makes
yeah,
sense, because I've read a lot of romance books where there's a lot of good relationships that are female relationships, but I'm
yeah,
wondering if in other genres, do we need more positive female relationships unless women are just dramatic and hate each other, and they will
yeah,
do a lot of bad things, and then their relationships will fall apart. And
yeah.
it's
It's an
like, I
interesting
don't know.
discussion. Also, do you think, and this is something I'm here thinking of just right now as we discuss like books we liked, books we didn't like, with the Becca character being directly just unwell on the page.
Hmm.
Is this more like a thriller? And is that why you and I don't like the likeness and this book? Because it feels a little bit more like evil
It
woman in
does feel
front of
more
us.
thriller, but it's slower paced though.
It is slower
You know what I
paced.
mean?
Hmm.
I would still classify this as mystery rather than thriller, just in the way that it kind of plays out, where it's like these glimpses into the past type thing. It has less thriller vibe to
That's
it.
fair.
But I do get what you're saying, though, that when we start to get more of the unhinged things happening, that does feel more thriller-esque.
Yeah.
I don't know how we make genre designations for books. I'm not sure how that goes about, but,
No.
and everything blends together too. So who's to
Yeah.
say?
Who's to say? But I'm curious about it because I was like, yeah, you and I don't always love thrillers, and this feels very
I think,
weirdly thriller-esque. So,
I think you and I also, though, have an appreciation for books like this, and maybe in general too, because we've also called out things like this in fantasy where we're like, but does it make sense? You know what I mean?
I definitely agree. You and I are definitely people who are interested in this kind of like blind spot, and we do want to call it out in the books we read because we want to enjoy
Hmm.
them and we want them to be
Well, and
good. Like,
it's not like I'm saying like, oh, well, we can't get on board with a different type of book. Obviously, like we read The Wheel of Time, we can get on board with a lot of weird things happening.
yes.
So, but
It's
at the
just the
same time,
weirdest thing we want to see is two women on the page liking each other.
yeah, is that too much to ask?
It might be.
Even Robert Jordan gave us that. I what a low bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of it seems to be that maybe we just prefer when books make a little more sense sometimes, you know? I even
Yes.
within the world that they are in. Like we read Murderbot, that there's these things don't exist, but we can call out when things don't make sense
And
within their world and the
it's
world building.
also one of those where it's like we're not asking for the murder bot where everyone gets along and it's very kind and beautiful,
Correct.
but we are asking for dynamic relationships that aren't, we are so close. If one of us changes lanes, it ruins everything. Because, like, that is what happened
Well,
is like
and
the
I'm
girls
just
didn't
thinking,
trust each other enough to grow together.
I'm just
Like,
trying to think in the previous books, were there any like healthy women in like I shouldn't say healthy women, but what relationships between two women that were depicted were they like fairly healthy?
Frank's ex and his sister get along really well in a very respectful way. So
Okay,
Jackie and
so we're still within the Frank book.
yeah, we're still within the
Frank,
Frank book, but that one is probably the closest to that.
because I was thinking like the last book, we have the sister of the woman who
Oh yeah.
tragically killed her family, and her sister sticks up for her and everything, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of I don't know, the way that
And
it's written, we don't
Scorcher's
get a
two
lot of
sisters. Like
like. But that I don't know if I would qualify that. I was
I
thinking about that
know.
too because I was like, that almost is from a difficult caretaker
Yeah.
situation. So I didn't know if I would qualify that. And I also don't know if I would qualify the sister of the woman who tragically killed her family in that book either, because that seems like another complicated situation where a sister is trying to care for her sister in a
Right.
complicated situation. Not so much like they have a really healthy relationship. I do think the closest we've got is Frank's wife and his sister.
I mean, Cassie's one friend was really nice to her before they were trying to cover up that they had murdered her.
Okay. Oh my.
Sorry. Can you be close friends if you're hiding up that if you're hiding the fact that one of our other
No.
close friends stabbed you?
No.
Yeah, I don't think there's but also in all fairness, I don't think there's a lot of like male close friendship in these books that aren't like people stabbing each other in the back or like good close dynamic. I don't think anyone's very close in these books. I think
Yeah.
they all kind of have crappy
I
relationships.
suppose that's fair. I suppose that's fair. I think I just immediately jumped onto are there any good female relationships because I felt like we've been talking about a lot of depictions of women being
Yes.
not the greatest. So I was then wondering if all the depictions of women are just bad, including the relationships. And because in this book in particular, we see so many young women in friendships and how rough they are was questioning, are there any good ones?
No,
And
I don't think
no,
so.
there
And
are
there just
not.
aren't any good relationships apparently in these books. So we'll
Yeah.
have to see if we can go 5 for 5
Whew.
next month.
Wow.
Or 6 for 6. We're on the sixth book next month.
Yeah, we're on the
So,
sixth one. We've
well,
almost done it.
we've almost done it. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to this unless you have something else to share. I feel like we
I
were,
don't really. I
yeah.
just think that this one didn't hit for me. I get what the take that you had, Hannah, of this being the book that's like the tragic the tragic one because sometimes doing the right thing means you lose people. And
Yes.
we had that already.
Yes.
And this one was rougher to read
Yep.
because we also learned teenagers at boarding schools
Suck.
have a lot of problems that I question how they have time for it all.
Yep.
But that's
Well,
it. That's all I
all
have to
right.
say.
Well, everyone, thank you for listening today. Please
Yes.
join us
Thanks,
next week
listeners.
as we pick our indie mission book for after we finish
Yay.
The Trespasser. And then you can continue on with us next month into The Trespasser for the final book
Mhm.
of the series as the series
Yay.
comes to a close. Keep an eye out for all of that. We are so excited to be covering more and more. So make sure you're always checking ourpod.com for our reading list. You can also find some wonderful book blogs up there. We just covered one from
Yeah.
Kevin Nab.
Lots of
Uh,
author interviews.
Lots of author interviews over there, so please check that out. You can also follow us at OWWR Pod on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok when I post on there. Or
Mhm.
you could always throw us a little bit of money to help keep the lights on over at our Patreon, at our Pod Patreon,
Yeah, we'd
where
really
we
appreciate that.
where we are covering all of the Dresden TV show episodes for only $3 a month. One episode a month gets you us being very confused by
Yep.
early 2000s TVs.
And really wishing we could jump in a time machine and
And
recast.
a lot of discussions on the production decisions for this. So
Yeah.
you can join us
So
over
many.
there, or just reach out to us on our Discord. We'd love to have more
Hmm.
people join us over there. We appreciate it, and we can't wait to talk more Dresden Files this summer. So
Hmm.
buckle up.
Yeah. And thanks for listening today.
Bye.
Bye.